Hello and welcome, everyone. This is Tom Winterstein, and whether you're joining us live or listening to this on the recording, I'd like to thank everyone for being here and spending this time with us today. So, it's quite an interesting topic, and I get asked about this um, regularly about trading all time highs. And do I trade all time highs? Can I trade all time highs? How do you trade all time highs? And the answer is yes, and very carefully at times. And there are certain techniques and strategies that one can follow to manage the risk, preserve capital, and to really give it your best shot, if you will, because whether you're trading all-time highs or you're just trading into regular structure, it's still an educated guess because nobody knows for certain what's about to happen. It doesn't matter what happened before because you know every moment in the market is unique, although historical information can certainly help us to project and anticipate things into the future. But we can never expect things to happen with the market, and that may be sound like a play on words, but when traders begin to expect things to happen into the market, that's when we can get into trouble. So, we're going to spend this time talking about trading all time highs and some strategies around that. So, before we get into that, the traditional risk disclaimer is here for all of us. And at the end of the day, trading is risky. And I think we all know that, but we're obligated to put this up here. And I think we all know that. So what I want to do, and I know there are some familiar names out there that I saw and some brand new ones. So again, welcome to everybody. I always like to give a little bit background about ChartPros and kind of what makes us tick. And one of the things that we really specialize in is simplifying the complexities of trading. Whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced trader, you know, if you want help, our goal is to help you. We are very inspired to pay it forward. Michael Perigo, who many of you know as the instructor of the Price Action Mastery certification course and the Advanced Features course, was a tremendous mentor, for me and a coach. And now I'm honored to call him a partner with ChartPros, and we work together, to help traders like yourself at this game that we call trading. And I think, we're all in trading for the same reason. Most of all to try to make money at it. But second of all, what I find that's really common among traders is people get very passionate about it. Passionate to the point where it can be life changing, not only life changing from a monetary standpoint, but life changing from an activity standpoint. Where I hear a lot of people say, well, I'd really like to, just be a trader full time and leave my day job, and things like that, or change careers to be in the trading profession. And whether your goal is to trade full time, part time, whether you're a swing trader, day trader, make 2 or 3 trades a year, the principles are all the same. The risk management can be the same. The charts and the time frames can be different. But whether you're looking at a monthly chart or you're looking at a 1 minute chart, the price action tools are all the same. And so that's what we focus on is, providing market education and related services all around that. And so Mike has over 12 years of trading experience. And, when I first met Mike in the BTG rooms, I was convinced he could see through walls because some of the stuff that he saw in charts was just amazing. Still amazes me how, how all the mathematics work and how Mike really understood it. But more importantly, not only does Mike understand it, but he has a very, very good methodology for conveying and teaching that to others. And so for that, I've been extremely grateful. And I know many of you and others have as well. I've been in trading for a little over 20 years. When you hear the term retail trading, that just means, we're not, a professional investor. We're not investing money for other people. We don't work for an institution. We're individuals trading our own individual money. So that's what retail trading means. And you may often hear that referred to, but people in the business, they call that upstairs. They're trading upstairs. And, people that used to work on the floor in one of the exchanges, when they go upstairs, that means that they're just trading their own money. I'm sure back in the day that had some other connotation. I'm not really sure, but anyways, that's what it is. We're all retail traders, and I trade futures, forex, commodities, equities, and mostly options when it comes to equities. Back in the day when I was first learning how to trade, I only knew how to buy low and sell high, but that doesn't always work out. And so I was actually buying equities back in the 90s. But, in the .com heyday, that's all you had to do was buy low and sell high, because everything was going up to the moon until it didn't. And so anyways, I've got a lot of experience trading. I was in graduate school back in the late 80s, 1987, when the market at the S&P market dropped 22% in a single day. I know some of you have heard me say that before, and if you've never heard that before, think about if the S&P dropped 22.5% tomorrow, how the media and everybody's brother and neighbor and grandparents would absolutely freak out, and rightfully so. But a lot of safeguards have been put in over the years. So you may have heard of terms like limit up and limit down. So once a market gets 7.5% during regular trading hours, it'll shut down for a period of time to kind of cool things down and slow it down a little bit. And we actually experienced that back in March, some limit down days, when the pandemic was first hitting. And so anyways, I've got a lot of experience trading that. Back in the late 80s, I was in grad school when that happened. I wasn't trading back then. I was in my early 20s, but it would have been nice to put some money into the market the day after that happened. I have traded through the .com heydays, and the bubble burst of that in the late 90s. I've traded through the financial crisis. I've traded through the pandemic. I haven't seen everything. I certainly don't know everything, but I've seen a lot. And, I try to share as much as I can. Lastly, about me, I'm also a certified mental performance coach, which is extremely important when it comes to trading, because I think Yogi Berra once said that 90% of trading is technical analysis, and the other half is all mental. And you baseball people out there get that joke, because 90 and a half is more than 100. So anyways, that's a little bit about ChartPros. That's our website there, stockchartpros.com. You can find us on social media, Facebook, and also we're on Twitter. And so one of our underlying philosophies as an organization is, we don't believe in indicators. We don't sell signals. We're not sending out text alerts and telling people when to buy, when to sell, or, any of that kind of stuff. What we want to do is teach people how to do it by themselves. So the old saying is, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. So we're trying to, teach people how to fish and trade, if you will. So that's kind of what motivates and inspires us. So the topics for this session, again, is trading all-time highs. You may see an acronym ATH. That's what that is. And so we're going to go through the things that we see here to trade or not to trade. And it comes down to, individual choice, preferences, risk management, styles. There's certainly better ways to trade all-time highs than others. And sometimes sitting on the sideline is perfectly, fine and the right thing to do. But if you are going to trade all-time highs, there's some strategies and techniques that we are going to talk about, how to estimate upside targets. And you notice I said targets, because targets sometimes, or most oftentimes, mean those are bull targets where the bulls could go to. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a level to short. But once this new structure is made, at new all-time highs, some of the things that we'll want to be able to do as traders is, how do we identify lower highs? And so we'll talk about some specific strategies on how to do that. Probably most importantly is we'll talk about preserving your capital. And then at the end, I've reserved some time for some questions and answers, and we'll kind of take it from there. So when we talk about trading all-time highs, and really all the instruments, whether it's indices, the equities, commodities, or forex, and out of the major or the major forex pairs, I don't know of any that are at or near all-time highs. There might be some out there that I'm unaware of. So it may apply less to forex, but certainly for indices, equities, and commodities. And we've got some specific examples and charts that we'll take a look at. But more times than not, some of the common things when you're talking about trading all-time highs is there's going to be a breakout, and a breakout above a previous all-time high. And more times than not, what you're going to see is above average volume. And one of the reasons I had an asterisk next to forex is, one, again, I don't know any of the major pairs that are at or near all-time highs, but you really can't measure volume with forex. And so the volume measurements, when you do get a breakout and you get new all-time highs, most of the time it's supported by above average volume. And that means that the bulls are really taking charge, and you see a lot of aggressive buying that just shoots the price up. And when that volume drops off is usually when the price kind of backs off in a hurry, or it can. But it goes through these what's called an action, reaction, resolution phase. And the action is the breakout above a previous high. The reaction is the volume and sometimes a retest of that level that it just broke. And the resolution is it going to keep going up, or is it going to come down? And I didn't make that stuff up. It's pretty well documented on the internet and sites like Investopedia if you want to do additional research on that. But just know that when you're talking about all-time highs, there are formal studies and phases that it goes through. But at the end of the day, the choice is yours to trade or not to trade. But if you're going to trade, and I'm not afraid of trading all-time highs, but some of the things are different. Okay. And what I mean by that is, usually as a trader, and if you've been through any of our coursework, or if you've been on a session with me or Mike before, these are the 5 tools that we use: support and resistance. And these tools are native to any chart, whether it's Thinkorswim or NinjaTrader or TradingView, or you name it. I haven't run across a charting software platform that doesn't have these natively. So again, support and resistance, trend, Fibonacci, change control zones, and supply and demand zones. But when we're talking about using these tools of estimating upside targets at all-time highs, we've got we're at somewhat of a disadvantage, because we lose the ability to use 3 of these 5 tools. And so what we're left with is essentially trend and Fibonacci, because support and resistance, if there's no historical information to the left, well, we can't draw anything. Now, what is important to note, and I like to put these on my chart, is I'll usually put in a light gray line, I'll put previous all-time high, because sometimes that can be a magnet, and it can also, what used to be resistance can now be support. And so I do like to put that, although to the upside, there's no resistance because it's all uncharted territory. Same thing with change control zones. Change control zones are really battlegrounds between the bulls and the bears. And when we're talking about all-time highs, there are no bears. It's just all bulls. Okay. And there's no, demand or supply zones when you're talking about all-time highs. And so that's all you got is trend and Fibonacci. So what I thought would be helpful for us is to go through some, chart examples of where, I've used trend and just Fibonacci in essentially basic structure, and to see how this works out. So the first one that I want to show is a chart of ES, and this is fairly recent. This is a weekly chart. It is higher time frame. And again, I've got time frames, for weekly, monthly, 4 hour. So if you're a day trader, this stuff applies to you. If you're a swing trader, it applies to you too. If you trade 2 or 3 times a year, and maybe you're just managing your retirement accounts and stuff like that, well, again, all the principles are the same. But all I have in this is just 2 simple trend lines, one that's connecting a high channel, and then one that goes through candles. And I'm not a huge fan of marking up my charts and using trend lines that go through candles. But in this case, because I could only use trend and Fibonacci, I thought it would be appropriate to do that. And so I identified this a few weeks ago. And for the people that are in our chart subscription room, I actually put this out ahead of time and said, hey, this is interesting. Price has made a new all-time high at 35.87. And depending on what's happening, if we break that, well, here's a potential resistance trend line in a little, I call it thread the needle. If there's a place in there where if it goes to, well, I might try to short that. And then I did in that particular case. And again, there's different techniques and investments you can do to short that. The next slide I'm going to show you is the actual result of that. And so to me, it's still somewhat amazing that it worked, but did it exceed that upper channel? Yeah, it did. But again, this is a weekly chart, so if you're investing on a weekly time frame, well, gee, not only would it have held, it held, and if you're an 8x trader and took an out of the money weekly trade, you could have really cleaned up on things like that. And so, and when we talk about an 8x and out of the money, low risk, high reward, you'll see me do those types of things around all-time highs, because that's one of the ways that I'll manage risk and preserve my capital. But that could have kept right on going, but it didn't. It shot right on up to 36.68. I think that was the day that the vaccine was announced, and it just shot, and the bulls just absolutely ripped to the upside, and there was a lot of volume that followed that. So the next example that I'm going to show you, and again, right now most of these are all on ES. This is a chart that I put out a week ago Friday, again in our subscription room. All I had was trend, and in this case I used Fibonacci, where if you understand how these work, I had a validated fib anchor at the bottom to be an impulse, and I had a nice retracement to the 78.6 there, and then almost a retest of it, but not quite. And then price really shot up, made new all-time highs. That trend line wasn't there at first. The first test of that trend line was that last 36.68 that I had showed you. But then I had a fib completion. I had a bull profit target, the minus 23.6, and a trend. And I said, well, that's about as much confluence as you can get with all-time highs, because I can only use Fibonacci and only use trend, and I had a nice confluence coming up there. And so I put that out on Friday, and later that day it actually hit it. I was not around. I did not trade this one, but it went up, and it pierced 3,700, and you can see at the time of that screenshot that was 3690. And so again, all we're trying to do is stack the edges, put the probabilities in our favor, and that'd have been at least a nice 10-point ES short to the downside. Unfortunately, I was not around for that one, and the last chart I showed you was a weekly chart. This one's a 4-hour. So again, whether you're a swing trader or day trader, all the principles are the same. And here's the continuation of that. You can see where it pierced 3,700, and it came right down to the support, which was previous all-time high. You see that wick, that green wick over to the left over in here, and I had marked that because that was a previous all-time high. So I can anticipate this could potentially now be a resistance level, because before it was support. And so it came up here, we got our trend line, came down, almost tested it, jumped off of there again. I'm not using any fibs here because I just want to show the basic structure in this chart. Tested this previous all-time high, shot right back up to the top of that channel, and then came down. I do have a follow-up. I took this same chart from earlier, I think earlier today, and we can see what has actually happened. So this was that 36.68, got that test, came back down to previous all-time high, shot back up again, tested this upper channel a few times, came back down to the support and resistance. And now, that I've got some volatility here and got some movement, I can actually put in some Fibonacci's. And so what we saw, pretty sure this was from earlier today, I still left this trend line in here. I've got a higher time frame fib, and I got a nice retracement to the 50%, and boom, where did it go? Right back to that previous support and resistance. So, you can't make this stuff up. It's kind of like water trying to seek and find its lowest level. Price action will find, its levels, so to speak. Just like water will seek its lowest level, price will seek these magnets, if you will. And again, anytime we're trading, this is nothing more than an educated guess. And so why not try to have the best education that we can, when we're doing this. And so these are the some of the ways that I'll chart and look at all-time highs. And this can be the same on the NASDAQ. It can be the same on YM. I don't really trade the Russell that much because there's not as much historical information. And I really get that from Mike. That's kind of Mike's philosophy. And so a lot of the things that are good enough for him are good enough for me. And I think if you've ever been around Mike for any period of time, I think there's no arguing with that. So I want to take a look at some other charts. Again, we're just restricted to support and resistance, or I'm sorry, the trend and Fibonacci. And so we've looked at a weekly, we looked at a 4-hour, and here's one I recently put out. This is a monthly chart of the ES. And if this goes back to a market crash back in 1987, that's where that trend started, to the far left over here. This is where the market dropped 22.5% in a single day. And we recently tested this 33-year trend line, and we fell pretty significantly off of that. But then we came right back to it, and now we've recently broken this 33-year trend line. Now, again, I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but some things I can anticipate at some point is going to be potentially a retest of this 33-year trend line. Maybe this month, maybe next month, maybe never, who knows? But I do have an upside target in here because I've got this validated fib where that March low from the pandemic gave me almost a perfect 50% retracement. And so we know that just based on Fibonacci principles, that this is an upside target of 39.62. This would be profit target number 1 based on this Fibonacci. So it still remains to be seen. You hear different things in the media, doom and gloom, the market's going to crash. And, I'm not a predictor of market action and price action, but I do react to it. And I can anticipate, using those 5 tools of potentially what could happen. So I don't know. We might get a retest of this trend line. I don't believe it's happened yet. We may have gotten just a little break and retest there, but it's kind of sitting right here. We might get another retest, or it could want to shoot up off of there. But going up above, we have no support and resistance to shoot for. We only have this profit target number 1, and we have this line. Now on the lower time frame, sure, like we were looking at the 4-hour and it's moving around and stuff. But one of the things I have in my chart is, from a bear perspective, do I have Fibonacci sequences that can take me back down to this trend line? Because that may be an area of a potential long, but again, it all depends on the market sentiment. So, again, from a weekly perspective, from a 4-hour perspective, from a monthly perspective, this was pretty eye-opening. And this chart is something that's new to me, that I discovered it, although that's a 33-year trend line. It was a couple of weekends ago. I was looking at, what could possibly happen long-term with the market as it relates to my retirement accounts. Because, people are saying, oh, do you go to the sidelines? Do you keep buying more? And, the answers are always personal and individual. But I like to chart. To me, it's like sitting there and working on math problems. Anybody who knows me would agree with this statement. I'm kind of nerdy. I like doing this. I like technology. And so I wanted to see, okay, what potentially could happen with the market longer term on a monthly basis. And it was very revealing and eye-opening to me, especially because on the weekly and daily basis, I really didn't find any fibs that were this clean as the one on the monthly, like this. So that was pretty eye-opening to me. And if you haven't seen this before, we've got this posted on some of our social media. I think it's on our Facebook and our Twitter. So this is out there, and you can hopefully use it and benefit from it in the future. But it's not just the indices that are all-time highs, we're going to take a look at some of the equities as well too. Same principles will apply. And here's one that seems to be the talk of the media, and that's Tesla. And if you look at the trend line and the upside Fibonacci's, and again, there's really no support and resistance to the upside. It just amazes me how price went to that upward trend line at 654 and just kind of fell from there. Again, it's just, to me, it's somewhat magical and mystical, because it's in the middle of nowhere. There's no fib completions. There's no support and resistance. The only thing there is trend, and it went up there and just pinged off of there and fell. But it may never see that level again, or it may revisit it and want to break it, and keep going. It may want to break and retest. Who knows? We don't know. But if it does want to break and keep going, I've got a price target on Tesla of 693. Again, that's not a level that I'm looking to short. Okay, that's a bull profit target that if I'm long, that's what I'm hoping that price could get to, is up to that level. I've also put in some retracement fibs that people saying, and you've probably have friends or neighbors or relatives that'll ask you about Tesla or this, that, and the other stock chart, and what do you think about that? Is like, I'm certainly not buying at these levels. Okay. I'd like to see, if I was wanting to buy, I'd like to see a retracement down between 500 and 529. And with Tesla, that could happen in 24 hours, just as much as it can move, or it could never happen. You don't know, but I'm certainly not a buyer at these levels, at least not on a weekly basis. But I like to look at other social media sites, and there's a lot of talk about, oh, I'm going to short Tesla. And personally, and honestly, I'll tell you, I have never traded Tesla, either through the equity or its options, and I probably won't anytime soon. To me, and I'm a pretty risk averse person, but Tesla is a little too risky for me. But I like to chart it, and it's just again, amazes me how it behaves very correctly around the technical analysis. For as irrational and exuberant as the price action seems to be, it does behave technically, in a well structured, mannered way. So another equity I want to take a look at, and we've heard a lot about this equity in the last year, and that's Disney. And Disney has recently broken and made an new time high. And people say, well, do you consider any of the fundamentals? Do you look at their price earnings ratio? Do you look at their this, that, and the other? And to me personally, as a trader, I do not. You look, here's a company that's, I don't know how many tens of thousands of people that they recently laid off. Their parks have been closed for months. I mean, these are all fundamental negative things, but look at what their price has done, since the March lows. And sure, I know they've diversified some of their business lines into Disney Plus with streaming and stuff like that. But really, does Disney Plus make up that much, for lost revenues from the park and everything, and having to lay off people? I don't know. So other than knowing when earnings events and announcements are, I really don't pay much attention to the fundamentals, when it comes to that. I'm a pretty traditional chartist, because it seems to work. And news events like earnings announcements seem to be a catalyst to fill technical levels. So when we're talking about trading all-time highs, one of the things that's important that I have found is identifying lower highs, and what behaviors and characteristics happen and look like that for potential shorting opportunities. I was mentioning before that previous all-time high, which was before resistance, can now be a support mechanism as too. It doesn't mean that it's going to hold there, but I like to put it there as a line in the sand to either be a magnet or a line to be broken again. When appropriate, if the price action allows for it, you can use Fibonacci bear retracements. and look for a retracement into the 50 to 78.6% zone. And then, trend lines, new or previous. And I've got some examples of this that we're going to take a look at as well too. So this takes us back to September of 2018. This was the ES trading. Don't ignore the price up here because I took the screenshot recently. But look at this price action here back when all-time highs were in the 2900s. And what I've seen the last couple of times that we've gotten big sell-offs, like this one, like the one in March of 2020, is it'll make an all-time high, and then we'll get a retracement on a Fibonacci. And the next screen is going to be a zoomed-in version of this so we can see a little more clear. But it came up and made that all-time high. So I've got it marked here. 29.47 was the all-time high. We got a little bit of weakness. This is a daily chart, but we got not only one, but two tests of that 78.6. And, I wasn't a buyer there. I wasn't necessarily a seller. I didn't know what to think. Yeah. If you just kept looking at this, the trend, there was a trend line and a topper channel up here. But the last couple of times that we've had major sell-offs, we got a really nice retracement like this within a week. Okay, if you're looking at this on an hourly basis, you're thinking, well, okay, well, it's just going to keep going up. But we got 1-2 tests of that 78.6, and then boom, the bottom kind of fell out, and it went down for a good while back in September of 2018. And you may remember the December lows of that year when everybody thought that the sky was falling. Another example, this was from March. Okay, we kind of had a little bit of flattening at the top where, the bulls seemed to get a little tired. There wasn't the rip roaring, to the upside. We weren't getting 50, 60 points to the upside. It was just, kind of moving a little bit sideways. And then, and this is a 4-hour chart. So over a period of a couple of days, we got a little sideways accumulation. And then we got, a little downturn here, and we got a retracement back up to the 61, and the 78 could have worked on an hourly as well too. But even on the 4-hour, the 33.75, was kind of like the last hope for the bulls, because this is when the pandemic was happening. This was back in March, and then boom, we all know what happened and how low that it went. So my point to you is, when we're around these all-time highs, and I've shown you some of the structure with trend line, I've shown you, with previous all-time highs. If there's going to be a sell-off going into 2021, and I'm not saying that there is, and I'm not saying that there won't be, but one thing I'm looking for is something like this. Okay, I'm not a type of trader. I don't have to sell the very top. I'm not trying to guess the top. Okay, I like to put the odds in my favor. I like to use the tools that I've learned and understand, Fibonacci, being a trending tool. And so we had a trend reversal here. There, we could have seen there's a trend line I didn't have here, but it broke the trend right here, came back up, gave it a little retest, and then boom, off to the races to the downside. And so again, this is something that I'm looking for. If we're going to sell off going into 2021, I keep looking for something like this. But then in the back of my mind, looking at that monthly chart with profit targets, way up above, you just never know. And that's, I guess, what makes the market, is because, what is one person's, good deals, another person's misfortune, when it comes to that. So the name of the game, though, really comes down to preserving, your capital. And, an old saying, I'm sure you've heard it before, when in doubt, stay out. If you don't know and you're uncertain, just stay the heck out of there. There's always tomorrow. There's always another trade. Don't be that guy in the picture, because you're trying to be a hero and you've traded, too big, or you went too risky because, you just knew it was going to go down because you just knew it couldn't keep going up. Well, we don't know any of that stuff. And I've tried to get myself personally to a point where I don't let anything in the market surprise me. Having lived through, not traded through, that 22% drop in a single day back in 1987, that's possible. I think back in 2014 or somewhere in the last 5 or 6 years, there was the flash crash where the ES went down about 700 points in a day or an hour, and it was a computer glitch. I was a trader back then, but I was not in any trades at that time, so it didn't impact me personally. But a lot of people just got wiped out, and that was, just happens. So maybe lower contract size, is also part of a solution, in your personal style. There's lower risk, high reward types approaches. Any of you Nadex traders know that you can use out of the money um, types of trades, because when the bears get going, they get going. And again, I didn't make this saying up, but I think we all know that on the way up, the bulls take the stairs, and on the way down, uh, the bears take the elevator. Yeah, so the bulls take the steps, and the bears take the elevator. They come down in a hurry. So, but and if you're just not sure, trade something else. Okay, trade something that's not at all-time highs. Um, whether it happens to be gold or oil or forex. But if you're looking at the indices and you're looking at a lot of equities right now, a lot of them are at or near all-time highs, but there's a lot of things that aren't. So if it's just not, your cup of tea, then trade something else. But, maybe you've learned something tonight that can help you, do some of that, trading at or near all-time highs and take advantage of that, just from a tool perspective. I'm going to check the chat and see if we have any questions. I haven't seen anything really come in yet. No, we're still good on that. So as far as the formal slides, this was my last slide before we go into questions and answers, and I will open it up. I'm just going to put this last screen up here. I always like to end with, questions and answers, a screen that has our website and all the free courses and resources that we have, as well as any specials that we have for being on this particular discussion today. But if you haven't been introduced to any of our price action trading, again, we've got a free introduction to price action trading course that's extremely valuable. We have a free introduction to trading psychology and mindset course, and people say, well, why do you do these things for free? Again, well, it's part of my way and Mike's way of paying it forward to others who want to learn. And yes, we do have fee-based courses. So if it's something that you like and you want to get into, we don't do this for the money, but we won't do it for free either. So we have a monthly chart subscription that Mike and myself put out 14 charts a day, between the indices, commodities, and forex, and there's a 7-day free trial. So again, we're not hard sell, we're not hardcore, we're not saying you have to buy this or do that. We're just not like that. We like to offer discounts too, because we know everybody works hard for their money. So the price action mastery certification course right now, we've got a discount code of ChartPros 200 that will save you $200 on that. If you haven't heard about the advanced futures course that Mike did this past summer, we launched it, I think, in September. If you thought you knew stuff, if you took the price action mastery course and you thought that was really good and you learned a lot, like I did, I was one of the first students when that was offered as the forex mastery course back with BTG, and I thought I knew a lot of the stuff that was out there. I didn't know there was more to learn until all of a sudden Mike puts out this advanced futures course and does things with Fibonacci's that are just unreal. That just like we identify certain things in our charts today with trends and Fibonacci, well, Mike has identified a way where you can recognize when the institutional algorithms are in play, and there's certain fib sequences that if you spot them, they just work. It just works. I know some of you in this session today have been through that course, and it's just amazing, how that works. So anyways, you can save $100 on that as being on the ChartPros call today. The biggest one, I call this one the holiday special. And I do this, I started this back in the summer. It's a trading psychology and mindset boot camp. And I started it with 10 traders. 10 at a time is about my max. Well, that cohort just finished up, and I've got 7 openings for 2021, and you can use the code holidays. And please don't share this stuff. Just use it because you were gracious enough to be on this call today and give us some of your time. So we felt this is a way we can reciprocate and give something back to you. And we also do individual coaching and mentor. We have other traders that we work with as well. So I've been talking for a while. I'm going to stop here. I'm going to open it up, for questions, comments, thoughts. You can send it in on chat if you don't have access to a microphone or anything. So I'll monitor that. And who has the first question for us? So someone just sent me a private chat about trading all-time highs. Say, are there what's it say? Oh, are there any indications, in the market when new all-time highs can be made? And the answer is, yes and no. Yes to the point where you can use the tools, the trend and Fibonacci that we talked about tonight. The unknown are the news events. Like, who knew that the vaccine announcement was going to come, on that Monday morning, whenever it was, and then the volume in the ES just absolutely took off and made new highs. You don't know when those unexpected news events are going to happen. Some of the more predictable news events that you can find at forexfactory.com are like the FOMC, meeting minutes and announcements around when interest rates may or may not change. And the first Friday of every month when the non-farm payrolls report comes out. Those are things that can move the markets for volatility. And whether something's at an all-time high or not, you just don't know. Sometimes you just don't know when those are coming. But again, if you want to see, when the published news events are coming, go to forexfactory.com. I think someone was raising their hand here to see that they had a question. Who has a question? Do I have to call on people?
Hey, this is Sam from Detroit. I have a question, Tom, or
Yes.
more of a comment and a question.
Okay.
I want to say that BTG charts really changed my life, man, and it really opened my mind up to a way of trading that I really, I didn't really know how to do this, and the education has just really changed my life. And so when I got introduced to the price action mastery course, it was the forex mastery course when it first came out,
Right.
and Mike Perigo just blew my mind. I was
Amen to
like, oh,
that.
yeah. It was like, oh my God. And so I got it then and I studied it. And a lot of it was kind of over my head, but I took time and I studied it. And then when it was relaunched, I got in and I'm still going through the Forex courses toward the end of it. And I'm just blown away and I'm excited. I also got the advanced futures.
Oh, you did?
And
Okay, great.
Yep. And it's been, it is a learning curve. I'm sure some people learn it faster than others. People can catch on. I still have my full-time job, so I'm trying to squeeze in all the education. But I was curious, how does the 5 tools, the trend, support and resistance, supply and demand, change control, and fib, how do those 5 tools correlate into the commodity softs like cotton, sugar, cocoa, soybeans, and things like that?
It's all the same. A chart is a chart is a chart.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it really and truly is. And some of those that you mentioned, although I don't trade them, I've charted them just for practice.
Okay.
And
And
remember I said I was a nerd, right?
right. Yeah. Well, I noticed that the education is great. And like I said, if anybody goes through those courses, the education is just so advanced. I feel after I get done watching the videos, I feel like a nerd.
Well, good. Thank you
So
for your kind words there. And yeah, you mentioned BTG and Forex Mastery. That's until about 2015, I had never traded futures. And the first time I ever did was with, Sean Jantz and the Binary Trade Group, in
yep.
the value area box and the deviations. And, lots of times I'll still put up because I'm still pretty active in BTG and I get Sean's charts and I want to know where's the +1 deviation,
Yep.
and more
Yeah.
times than not, it's right near a support and resistance or a fib level or a trend that I had. And sometimes, I don't always have time to get that. And then Sean will send me a question privately, said, "Hey, did you know that entry you made was the minus -0.5 deviation?" I'm like, I had no idea, but
Wow.
still, it's because it's all about the mathematics and the probabilities, and it still amazes me, how all that works.
Yeah, it is. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, as Sean likes to say.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I've probably used some of his sayings tonight too. When in doubt, stay
Yeah,
out, right?
exactly. That's a classic. That's a classic right there. That's
But
Sean Jant's
it's
classic.
so true. It's so true. And I told Sean because the whole premise for us doing ChartPros and taking the Forex Mastery course into the price action mastery course was to make a good thing better. And
Yes.
you just said how good it was. And in my day job, what I do for the last 15-20 years is I've been running online training companies. And
Okay.
so I knew from an online training standpoint there was so much more that we could do, with it because it was really really good. And if you remember the original Forex Mastery course, I think Mike had a cold when he was recording it, and so
Yeah.
he coughed and sneezed and stuff. So
Yeah.
the new version, we've edited all that stuff out, and a lot of stuff that we do for our clients outside of ChartPros is very high fidelity content. It's like a TV show. It's professionally narrated, you know. But because the content that Mike did, and he's such an expert, subject matter expert, we didn't have to redo it because I think it would have taken out too much of the personality. But
Yes.
so we took out the coughs and sneezes and his instant messages that popped up and stuff like that.
All
Um,
right.
and for those who aren't familiar with it, the other things that we've added, to that are assignments, in the learning system where you watch a module, you have more. It's not a quiz, but you do a knowledge check to make sure, okay, did I really grasp what was being conveyed in this particular module? And you get through the knowledge check. It's not scored or anything, but then you get to turn in an assignment. And most of the assignments come to me. If you're on this call and you've ever had one of your assignments rejected, don't take it personally, because that's just the way it is, and that's how people learn, though. And we try to do it in a very constructive way. If an assignment gets rejected, we try to say why and how and that kind of stuff. So anyways, but so we've added in the interactive elements to that. We've got knowledge checks, we've got the turn in assignments. We have live webinars like this will actually be part of the course now as bonus material. We've done some others like that. So if you've taken the course and not been in there in a while, there's a new module on trading psychology and mindset. We put that in there as bonus material as well. And at the end, there's actual final exam, to go through where you come up and you make 3 separate trade plan videos. And one of the things that I've learned is people can no doubt and very easily make a 30-minute video. Okay. What's hard is, okay, give me 3 analysis charts and keep each one to 5 to 8 minutes. And that's actually harder. Okay. So
Wow.
a lot of preparation goes into that. A lot of people have taken the actual courses and have not finished the exam, and they're still working through that. But at the end of the day, it's about how do you put it all together? It's about how do we apply it? How do we get to the point where, if you haven't heard Mike say this, he said the charting is the easy part. Charting is the easy part. It's managing the risk that becomes the challenge at that point. How do you manage your risk? There are ways and techniques that are taught in the advanced futures course. How do you get to a risk-free trade scenario as quick as possible? And I'll tell you, learning techniques. How do I get to a risk-free trade? It's just, I wake up in the morning sometimes forgetting I'm even in trades.
Mm.
2 or 3 years ago, not only did I never trade forex, I wasn't much of a swing trader. I was a binary guy. 2 hours was kind of like that was a long swing trade for me. It was 2 hours. You know, so but
Yeah.
I've had some forex uh, trades that I've had for like 2 or 3 months, and you just
Wow.
use the tools to manage your stops and manage the risk. So, you know, I've learned a tremendous amount, from Mike and from doing it. And none of us get all the trades right. I can tell you that. There's some weeks I lose more trades than I win, but almost invariably I'll make more money than I lose just because of the proper risk management.
Yeah, that's something that I'm still learning. I had a drawdown, and but I learned a lot from it, and I'm kind of happy it happened because now it's forcing me to be a more disciplined trader. One of the things you mentioned too was the quizzes at the end of or the knowledge checks rather at the end of the price action mastery. That really was a game changer for me because what that does is it kind of solidifies what I know, what I don't know, and when you hit the button for the answer and you get the green check mark and you know it, it gives you such a boost to your confidence. Like, yes, I got that answer correct. And it just makes you feel more confident that you know the information. So that add-on in the price action mastery was like that alone was a game changer for me.
Right, right. Like I said, the whole premise we set out to do was make a good thing better.
Yeah,
And hopefully, from all the feedback that we've gotten, I feel pretty confident that we've been successful in doing that.
yeah, yeah. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate all you guys for what you do. Honestly, man, I was first introduced to futures when I got that booklet in the mail with the guy with the cowboy hat. I don't know if I could say his name. He's from Grants Pass, Oregon, and he has the mustache and the cigar. And I got the VHS tapes in the mail, so you kind of know how long ago that was.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I didn't stick with it because again, I just wasn't at that point. It wasn't my time. It wasn't my season. But it did strike a chord, and so futures was always something that I was interested in, and I really appreciate that. I found a group of guys who you guys make it so much. You make it so easy to understand a complicated subject. And I think I messaged Sean one time. I said, that's the definition of genius when you could take something that's complicated and simplify it.
Right, right.
So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Check the chat again, see if we have any other questions. Who else has questions? Anybody? We'll give it a few more minutes. I'll check chat again.
Hey, Tom.
Yes.
Hey, how's it going, buddy?
Good. I know your voice anywhere.
Yeah.
This is
yeah.
Avante.
I will say that as a previous caller, this is a great opportunity for people. Don't necessarily have a question, but I will say if you do use these tools within this program, there'll be tons of opportunities for next year, whether the market goes up or down. Plenty of opportunities, plenty of volatility going on. And just definitely, been studying the tools within this program for a while now, and it's just been working for me. So,
Right. Well, good. I appreciate that. And I saw your chart from the other day, and I've had the same targets as you have on YM. I think the bulls are hard charging towards 30,700. That's next
yeah,
stop. It's never a direct shot to it, but I think it's well within their sights.
yeah, because that's just an area of interest that not just the swing and the institutional traders are looking for. It is what day traders are starting to look for too. Like all the fibs are aligning there. They're aligning to a certain area. Not that because again, the news is the catalyst to all this, and all it takes is this one bit of news to just get it up there.
Yep.
So but don't think that's the know all be all. That's just what the algorithms and if people think it's going to go up, that's where everybody's looking to take their profits off.
Right.
So it is possible to trade that, but it's just an area to look for, just to see, what's the institutional traders thinking, what's the regular retail trader thinking, and what's the future going to be. It's really going to be a fun year next year.
Right.
Yeah, just to me. So,
and so many times, like when I saw that level, I did a little highlight video a couple of weeks ago, and that's the first time I saw that level of 30,700. And I have to admit, I'm really skeptical. I'm like, how in the world can we get up there? But but I've asked myself questions like that, particularly with the NASDAQ, so many times over the last 5 years, and it just does. And that's when you hear Mike say, or people will say, trust the levels, and it just works. It's a point that Sean makes all the time. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. People make the price go to that level because everybody has the same fibs drawn.
Exactly. You can see it through the fibs. Even as you day trade, you can see through the fibs, all the profit targets are in the same area.
Right.
Around and say it's just like Sean says it, Mike says it a lot too. It's just shared profit targets. Even people use the daily chart, who swing trade, weekly charts. It's all shared profit targets. Everybody's just taking the profits off, and just waiting for the next move. That's all they're waiting for. And it's just ES has a couple of areas too. NQ as well. So like I said, plenty of opportunities. Use this course. It'll definitely help you to get those opportunities and progress you forward. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, no question. No question. It's just, that self-fulfilling prophecy. And even, if you look at a day like the last couple of days where we've had some weakness, in the markets, in the indices anyways, and you look, everybody had the same fibs on that 50% retracement,
Yeah.
where the bulls stepped in, buddy, and they stepped in hard. They stepped in on ES, they stepped in on YM for sure, a pretty, precise level. The NASDAQ I always call a little bit of slippage. It slipped, 20 points past, but still it just absolutely took off, from that fib level.
Yeah, I do notice with the NASDAQ, it pretty much does its own thing. It does what it wants to do.
Yeah.
Just because it seems to be a little bit more volatile than the ES or YM.
Right.
So you just have to, if you are going to trade the NQ, just account for that volatility.
Yep.
Whether it's lowering your risk, or just keeping a good stop loss, just different strategies, different ways, manipulate the chart your way, just any way possible.
Yep. And I always used to blow my mind when I hear Mike say, he goes, "Well, I'm long in my swing account, but I shorted it, on my day trade account." I'm like, so he was long and short, like the NASDAQ or the ES at the same time. And that used to blow my mind away until I got to, through a lot of this education and training and application and learned it. And many times this year I've been long and short the same thing at the same on the same day. I'm like,
exactly.
It's crazy. Make money coming and going.
Yeah, because I used to day trade like heavy. Now the majority of my trades are more swing trades. I'll hold, like I have one now I've been holding for a couple weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's been one on the ES I've been holding for a while, just waiting to see if it hits my levels. But like I've been, it's been about November, the end of November.
Mm-hmm.
When it was consolidating, I had, I have a trade there and buy trade there. So, but I sold it, a couple days ago when it fell down.
Mm-hmm.
So now, I just, like I said, I day trade, you know, off and on. Then it's really the swing trades that I really enjoy because it gives me time to analyze the market. It just really gives me like a big picture of what's going on. If
Right.
I feel that it's not going my way, I can always get out at any time. No
Right.
harm, no
Right.
foul. And all I gotta do is if things really go south, mitigate the risk.
Right.
So it's really fun. When it comes down to it, it's really fun. This is really, really fun.
It is.
I enjoy it.
It's that passion that people have about it. And about a year ago, I opened up a spot forex account with IG, and I started, and I'm still learning how to swing trade, some of the forex pairs. And really and truly, it's almost like I call it the personality of the pairs, because they seem to have their own personality. The features do a little bit too, because the Nasdaq's a little bit different. But and I've been learning with lower lot sizes. I think my longest swing trade this year was like 3.5 months. Um, and again, just using higher time frame. You see a lot of my weekly forex charts and stuff like that, and just use it. It's like, and someone sent me and I'll still scalp, both ways. Like the Aussie dollar is one. I've been bullish on that, you know, since the March lows, and still bullish up to there's a weekly 78.6 retracement that's still up above. Somebody sent me a message on Facebook yesterday, because I scalped it with Nadex, and I've been long it in my spot account for a while, and the guy's like, "Well, it just went up 77 pips, which is above its daily average. Aren't you looking for a pullback?" I'm like, "I'm just looking to trade the chart,
Right, right.
Yeah, great. I'm glad it went up 77 pips. And yeah, when it pulls back, I'll get long again in my scalping, style. So anyway, that's a bit off topic for our trading all-time highs. If anyone else has any questions, Vontae, I appreciate you piping in and all that. As always, appreciate you being part of ChartPros.
Yeah, no problem, buddy. Just keep doing what you're doing, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
No problem.
I see we still have some people that are logged in. It's just about the top of the hour. I had planned for us to go an hour. I can't stay on longer if there's more questions. I'll give it a few more minutes to see if there are. If there's not, we can certainly end it here. But if you have a question, please unmute yourself and speak up. All right, I don't see anything in the chat. I haven't heard anybody pipe up, so I think this will conclude our session today on trading all-time highs. Again, thank you for joining us, for the people that were here live, and for you traders that are watching the recording of this. We really appreciate you. And again, stockchartpros.com is our website, and take advantage of our holiday specials there. Thanks.